What is going on, everybody? Shwazy here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different, kind of off the cuff and unstructured, but I wanted to make a quick video about a topic that hit the news just this week. Now, many of you guys may have heard this information, but I still wanted to address it. Now, as I'm sure many of you guys and girls are aware, Dodge has been releasing these last call edition models for 2023. And the reason they're tagged last call is because this is going to be the very last versions of the Challengers and Chargers before they transition into an electric powertrain. Now, whether you like that or not, most of you probably not, that is the situation that we're in. And as a result of this transition from internal combustion to electric, Dodge has been releasing these last call models for this upcoming 2023 model year. Now, the plan was to announce 7 different models for you to be able to purchase. And let's be honest, most of them are likely going to be marked up by the dealers, but nonetheless, you have the opportunity to purchase the very last year of a Challenger or Charger. Well, up through September, Dodge has released 6 models and recently announced the pricing for these models, with 2 of them going over $100,000, namely the King Daytona versions, which produce 807 horsepower and have some pretty cool graphics and interior styling. Now, I'm going to talk about my thoughts about these last call models probably later on in the video, but I wanted to focus on something you may have heard in the news that was released, I believe, just yesterday, and that is that the 7th last call model has been delayed in its announcement because the engine has been blowing up. Yes, you heard that correctly. The very last version of the last call model has been blowing up, so they can't actually release the model just yet. Now, up until this point, the last 6 models have really just been kind of a variation of the existing Hellcat jailbreak platform, with mostly just some cosmetic upgrades, whereas this 7th version of the last call was supposed to be kind of the demon killer and rumored to have 909 horsepower, which the demon on race gas only produced 840. The other rumor about this last Dodge Challenger was it was going to run on race gas, so E85 fuel, maybe even E100 fuel, and so that's how it was supposed to get these ridiculous 909 horsepower figures. Now, ever since they announced these last call models, they said that the very last version would be announced at SEMA, which is going on right now as I'm making this video in Las Vegas, Nevada. Unfortunately, as of today, this vehicle has not yet been released because of those issues. Now, it was rumored that the reason this vehicle was delayed was because of chip shortages and production delays, but yesterday, the CEO of Dodge came out and said, no, it's really just because we're blowing up engines, because we're not able to really get the powertrain to work and produce 909 horsepower. Now, keep in mind, Dodge does test their engines very extensively to ensure that they can perform under high-stress situations and lap after lap at the drag strip. So they're likely testing this engine more than any real human is going to test their engine. But the fact that it's blowing up and they were so close to the deadline of announcing this vehicle, I kind of find that a little bit funny and odd. I assume that Dodge probably already had this engine developed and ready to go back when they initially announced the last call versions, but apparently not. They were kind of like a college student procrastinating to the very end to submit the final essay for the final exam. Now, according to the CEO, it sounds like they're nearing the end of figuring things out and kind of making it a reliable engine. So hopefully this version will eventually come out either by the end of this year or in Q1 of 2023. Now, in all honesty, none of us are probably going to be able to afford it, because not only is it going to likely have a starting price of over $110,000, $120,000, but after you account for all the markups and the demand, I mean, I could see this vehicle going for $200,000. It kind of is a little bit of a slap in the face to anybody who bought a Dodge Demon and was thinking about collecting that vehicle. Not that I think the values of that vehicle are going to drop, but this is kind of just, again, above and beyond the Dodge Demon, and maybe kind of makes the Demon not as cool as this upcoming model if it is actually released. But the purpose of this video is to really hear what you guys and girls are thinking about this subject. Do you think this is a good move from Dodge to create another kind of halo version of the Challenger and Charger? What do you think that does to the Demon? What do you think about these engines blowing up? Are they really going to be able to figure out this testing by the time this vehicle gets into customers' hands? If they do release it in Q1 and it's supposed to come out before the end of 2023, they likely haven't even had 1 full year of testing this engine to its limits to really determine if it's a reliable engine. I mean, maybe it is best to stick with a Demon or a Red Eye that's been tested over the last 7 or 8 years and hasn't really had any issues versus this experimental engine that they may not be focusing that much time into because they're releasing electric powertrains starting in 2024. Now, one thing that came to my mind when I heard about this 909 horsepower engine blowing up is the Hellcat crate engine. For those of you that don't know what it is, it's a 426 cubic inch engine with a 3-liter supercharger that Dodge actually sells separately for individuals to buy and put into their own vehicles. One thing that came to my mind was, well, if they can develop this Hellcat engine that, as of their latest announcement, can produce 1,100 horsepower, why can't they manufacture a 909 horsepower engine? Well, to answer that question, I did do a little bit of research, and unfortunately, the Hellcat engine is actually not really street legal for any modern car. The reason for that is emissions. So Dodge is very open about this, but they say you cannot put the Hellcat engine into any vehicle that's newer than 1976. And the reason for that is because emission standards are less stringent on vehicles older than 1976. And so that's why, you see a lot of these Hellcat engines into old Dodge Chargers and Challengers because they just don't have the same emission requirements that modern cars have. The second reason why the Hellcat engine exists and this upcoming 909 horsepower engine doesn't is because they put the Hellcat engine through less testing. I mean, it's a crate engine. It's not meant to go into a manufactured vehicle that's going to have to honor a 3-year, 36,000 or 5-year, 50,000 mile powertrain warranty. So this engine that they're developing that's 909 horsepower, that one's going to go through much more strict testing than the Hellcat engine that's already out on the market. Now, could they potentially convert the Hellcat engine into a emission-friendly version? Perhaps, but it may cost them even more than just upscaling a existing Hellcat engine that already meets all the emission standards. Now, the last thing I want to address is just my overall thoughts on these last call models, specifically the 6 that have already been released. And in all honesty, I'm not very impressed. I feel like this is just a way for Dodge to really milk the cow and make a little bit more money by essentially just slapping on a bunch of stickers and reusing parts that they already have. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the Hellcat engine is impressive, and the fact that they can now get 807 horsepower out of one, I think that's really, really impressive. And Ford doesn't have anything that has 800 horsepower, and neither does Chevy. But that being said, I feel like it's kind of a gimmick to sell these last call versions at a pretty hefty premium, with none of them really starting less than $60,000. And the only difference is that you can get a few more color and interior options, and then you have some vinyl on the exterior. I think the only saving grace to this last call edition models is this potential 909 horsepower vehicle. I think that will really take it above and beyond, and hopefully when they bring in electric powertrain in the future, they can at least match or exceed that going forward. But I do want to hear what you all are thinking about Dodge, about their future in electrification, and about the last call models they've released over the past year. Do you think it's a good move? Do you buy into these last call models as kind of some special edition version? Or do you think it's just lipstick on a pig? And finally, what are your thoughts about this engine that keeps blowing up in Dodge's testing? Do you think we'll actually see one this year? And do you think you'll actually find one on a dealership lot? Well, there you have it, boys and girls. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this kind of impromptu video. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on the topic and hear what everybody is thinking down in the comments below. If this is your first time stopping by, make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly car videos. Also, find me on all the social media down in the description below. And as always, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. I'm going to continue enjoying my Hellcat, whose engine does not blow up.